Have you ever just stopped to think about how your body acts like this massive, high-speed regional power grid? Think about it. Every step you take, every tiny shift in your balance, it all relies on a totally hidden network of biological cables controlling your lower half. Today, we're doing a deep dive into female pelvic anatomy. We're going to reveal the actual master control panels that make all of this movement and sensation possible. Welcome to The Explainer. Now look, if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by dense medical textbooks, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to take this incredibly complex web of pelvic innervation, and we're going to simplify it into an easy-to-understand visual tour. So no impossible jargon here, just clear, beginner-friendly explanations of the fascinating wiring that powers you every single day. Okay, let's just quickly look at our roadmap. We'll start off with the pelvic command center, then we'll meet the lumbar plexus. From there, we'll check out the key nerves of the thigh, cross what's called the lumbosacral bridge, and finally, we'll wrap up by exploring the sacral plexus. Let's jump right into part one, the pelvic command center, mapping the regional power grid. So to really get a grip on this, you have to think of the pelvis as way more than just bones and organs. It's actually the foundational electrical wiring for the entire lower half of your body. Everything, and I mean literally everything, below your waist relies on this command center. The foundation of this whole system rests on two main power stations, the lumbar plexus and the sacral plexus. Working together, they supply the nerves to your pelvic walls, your pelvic floor, and your lower limbs. They're built from these main electrical cables that emerge all the way from your first lumbar spinal nerve down to your fourth sacral spinal nerve. Now, you're going to hear me use the word plexus a lot in this explainer, and if you're wondering what that actually means, simply put, a plexus is just a really complex, integrated network of intersecting nerves. It's kind of like a massive electrical relay station where a bunch of cables come in, they mix together, and then they send out these newly bundled wires to very specific destinations. It's basically how your body efficiently redistributes its electrical signals. Okay, moving right along to section 2. Meet the lumbar plexus, our upper power station. Now that we know what a plexus actually is, let's zoom in on that upper power station. We're going to systematically look at the specific cables extending from the first to the fourth lumbar spinal nerves. And what's really wild here is that this upper station is totally hidden. It forms right inside the substance of a really thick muscle called the psoas major, which sits right up against your lower spine. So from inside this protective muscular housing, the lumbar plexus organizes all the essential motor and sensory supply for your lower abdomen and your pelvis. Let's look at one of its highest branching cables first, the iliohypogastric nerve. This one originates from the very first lumbar nerve, and it wraps around to supply your abdominal wall and the skin right over your glutes. But here is where it gets really interesting. This nerve, it's completely missing in about 20% of people. Yeah, 1 in 5 of us just don't have it. Instead, the body just cleverly reroutes those signals through neighboring cables. Right below that, we have the ilioinguinal nerve. This is a super important sensory cable for the pubic region, the external genitalia, and the upper inner part of your thigh. And just like the last one, human anatomy is full of total surprises. This nerve can be entirely absent in up to 35% of cases. Over a third of people. And again, other nerves just happily step in and take over the job. Next up is the genitofemoral nerve. Now, this one pierces right through the front of that psoas major muscle we talked about and splits into two distinct branches. What's especially cool here is the difference between men and women. In men, this nerve controls a specific muscle reflex. But when we're looking at female pelvic anatomy, this nerve is primarily sensory. It provides feeling to the labia majora and the upper thigh, but it actually doesn't innervate any muscle at all. All right, let's head into section 3. Key nerves of the thigh, wiring the lower limbs. So let's move a bit further down the grid to the really heavy-duty cables. From that upper power station, your body needs to send thicker cables down to power all the complex mechanics and sensations of the thigh and the knee. Meet the obturator nerve. This vital cable actually leaves the pelvic cavity by slipping through a tiny little opening to enter the inner thigh. Its main job? Powering your adductors. Those are the muscles that pull your legs together. But it also acts as a really crucial communication line, constantly sending sensory feedback from both your hip and your knee joints right back up to the brain. But you know, this area holds a bit of a hidden secret. There is a specific anatomical variant right around here that is so under the radar, it's frequently mistaken for other nerves. We're talking about the accessory obturator nerve. This little guy is found in up to 30% of individuals. It usually runs right alongside the main obturator nerve, but it takes a slightly different path over the pelvic bone, instead of going through the usual opening. Because it's a bit of a wild card, medical professionals have to be super careful to map this hidden structure out to ensure safe and effective pelvic surgeries. Now, on the outside and the front of the thigh, we see a real division of labor. On one side, we have the lateral femoral cutaneous nerve. This is a purely sensory cable. It's solely responsible for the feeling on your outer thigh. But on the other side, we have the massive femoral nerve. This is actually the largest branch of the entire lumbar plexus. It's a heavy-duty, mixed nerve that powers your giant quadriceps muscles, while simultaneously collecting all this sensory data down the inside of your leg, all the way to your big toe. Okay, let's move to section 4, the lumbosacral bridge, connecting the grids.
So, we've seen the upper station in action, but for the body to work in total harmony, we have to link the upper and lower power stations together, right? Enter the lumbosacral trunk. This is a really thick, cord-like bridge that carries nerve fibers from the lower lumbar spine straight down into the sacral region, crossing right over the sacroiliac joint. And here's why this matters to you. Because of its location right up against the bone, if this trunk gets compressed, it becomes a major culprit behind severe sacral nerve pain that radiates down the lower body.
Which brings us perfectly to section 5, exploring the sacral plexus, our lower power station. Thanks to that bridge, we have finally arrived at the sacral plexus. This is the network that dictates the function of your deep pelvic floor, your powerful glute muscles, and the vast majority of your lower limbs. Just look at this downward-pointing triangular network of yellow cables. It rests right up against a really key muscle in the deep pelvis called the piriformis, and it's from here that these heavy nerve bundles are organized and basically prepped to exit the back of the pelvis to wire up the rest of your lower body. And a truly great example of this organization is the gluteal nerves. That piriformis muscle I just mentioned, it acts kind of like a natural traffic divider. The superior gluteal nerve exits the pelvis by passing above the piriformis to power your upper glutes. Meanwhile, the inferior gluteal nerve takes the route below the piriformis to power your gluteus maximus, which is literally the largest muscle in your entire body. But here is just a wonderful bit of anatomical trivia for you. While almost all of these thick sacral nerves are furiously exiting the pelvis to reach the legs and glutes, the nerve to the piriformis muscle does something completely unique. It simply arises, turns right around, and plugs directly into the deep surface of the piriformis. It literally never leaves the pelvic cavity at all. It just stays right at home. So let's quickly recap. The most crucial point to take away from our explainer today is how elegantly this whole system is compartmentalized. The lumbar plexus handles the lower abdomen and the upper thigh. The lumbosacral trunk securely bridges the gap between the two. The sacral plexus manages the deep pelvic floor, the glutes, and the lower legs. And perhaps most importantly, we learned that human wiring is definitely not some factory standard assembly line. Anatomical variations are incredibly common and they're completely normal. Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating final thought to chew on. With all these overlapping cables, muscles, and tight bony exits, what exactly happens when this grid experiences a short circuit or some sort of nerve compression? The structural map we've built together today is the very first step to understanding precisely why conditions like sciatica or sacral nerve pain actually occur. If you enjoyed decoding this explainer with me, make sure to subscribe for more simple, visual medical explanations. I'll see you next time.